Alright guys, so this is the second video about the Joey Landreth amp. If you haven't seen the first one, I'd recommend going and see that first. I sort of give you a rundown of the amp and like what the controls are and the specs and everything. But from now on, these next several videos, just going to dive straight in. Today we're basically looking at what happens if you crank the gain. How bluesy can this amp get? I think this video is going to be shorter than expected and probably be unexpected or surprising in the outcome. Let's crank this thing and get a Strat in front of it. So here's the thing, right? It's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I started making this video at 9 in the morning. I've spent the last 7 hours playing around with this amp. I've recorded a few more clips, but not that many. It's a bit of a conundrum for me. If I thought I was getting an amp that I could crank to sound like Joey Landreth out of the box, I was mistaken. I'm not sure I really thought that. You know, I know he uses pedals, but this is a very clean amp. It's a clean 100-watt amp. You know, depending on the pickups, you can get some hairiness with a humbucker. But to be honest with you, not that much. It's my ears hurt because it's a very snappy, tight sound. There's got to be other ways to run this thing. Now, particularly for this, if you saw in the settings there, I did scoop this a lot. I wanted a very stratty sound, and it ended up being quite jazzy, bluesy. It was really nice, actually. You know, you could definitely use that sound. Would it be worth buying this amp for that sound? I don't know, because surely a deluxe reverb or a Princeton or a super reverb or whatever can do that. So, yeah. Now, this is not a downer on this amp. Let's hear, this is a Les Paul with a staple pickup in the neck. This is also without a pedal. And again, I think it's a gorgeous sound. Let's hear that. So you're possibly wondering, firstly, why I haven't used any humbuckers yet. That would seem the obvious place if I'm trying to get more gain out of this amp. But I'm leaving that till the next episode. We're not going to use a humbucker in this. I want to start in the next episode thinking about how to sort of build a big sound out of this amp. And Joey Landreth is currently using a lot of humbuckers, so that would be an interesting one. That staple pickup, on the other hand, is one of my favourite types of pickups. It's very sweet. It has a single coily sound, but also a sort of thicker sound, and so it's something I really enjoy using. And as you hopefully heard there, it's got a bit more output. It's probably around 7k ohms, and it definitely got a bit more out of the amp. You know, it was a lot juicier of a tone. There was a bit more sustain. Still not big by any stretch, and still not sort of edge of breakup. It was still before that sort of point. But it was still very nice to play. The one thing I would say is this amp allows you to sculpt the EQ so well. You can really take away anything you don't want, whether it's in the mids, the bass or the treble, and like the controls really interact with each other. So you can use the mids to fill in some bits of the bass and some bits of the upper mids. If you take away one bit, you can counteract with it. It's like, I'm gonna have to do a video where I sort of show you around the EQ in a bit more detail. It's difficult to explain. The other thing that's odd with this amp is if I turn the gain down a lot and put the master up a lot, it's not that loud. Like, it really hasn't got much oomph. And I think that's probably purposeful, because I imagine Joey Landreth plays all sizes of venues, from actually quite small, probably surprisingly, to reasonably sort of medium large ones. You know, he's not playing stadiums, but everything before that probably. And he obviously needs to build a sound with his pedals, which could add a lot of volume. So I think the amp is made so that it's not overwhelming in itself. So as we start to build some sounds over the next few episodes with pedals, with fuzz, with some delay, with using the tremolo that's in the amp, I think that's where that will come into the fore. Now, I wanted to finish this video just on a, well, yeah, it hasn't been a downer. It's just been a bit of a surprise. But on an up note, we've got some P90s coming up with one pedal. This is a Jan Ray, Vemuram Jan Ray, just on not a huge amount of anything, but enough just to push over that next level. So let's hear those P90s. To me, that's sort of tantalizing. You know, I can see how the amp has just got, there's nothing ugly in this amp, right? When I first got the 2-Rock Classic reverb, I wasn't sure how to set it a couple of years back, and I'd have conversations with people, like, doesn't the sound get a bit brash or harsh? And over time, I've learned how to use that amp and what it's really for. But this amp doesn't have that brashness. It's got a much sweeter thing, which makes sense with someone like Joey Landreth, singer-songwriter guitar player. Like, he's doing a lot of stuff where the guitar is not at the front of things, and it needs to sort of have mellowness, sweetness, it needs to fit in the background, and then it needs to grow bigger and bigger. And the amp, much like the Rift Ainsley Lister, right, this is the sort of design and expression of one person's like vision that they need to do what they need to do. So it's not about like criticizing anything about it, it's about figuring out, you know, can I use it? What would it be for me? You know, and how can I get the best out of it? You know, if I want to sit here and play some simple blues, or if I want to play, I don't know, like more SRV style stuff on a Strat, or more BB King, Kirk Fletcher type on a humbucker guitar, there's no point plugging into this amp. On the other hand, I did find that Strat tone pretty amazing. Really, if you think about it, it was shimmering glassy, it had full low mids, it was nothing like in the bass sort of overtook, it was just really great. And what would be cool is to compare this one to the Classic Reverb, which I think is such a Stratty amp, and to see if like can the Classic Reverb do exactly what the Joey Landreth is doing and more with a Strat. But yeah, that'll be coming up in the next few weeks as well. So how do I want to leave this one? You know, this is a pretty simple video, just to get a point across. This amp, will it do blues? Yeah, it will do blues. I mean, it will do more blues when we start using more pedals, but I didn't want to introduce loads of pedals yet. We're going to get there in the next episode. So we're just starting to see that like this is really quite a clean pedal platform, but with very powerful EQ. Obviously the tremolo, which we heard in the first episode, is just magnificent. The reverb is something really different, and I'm going to open up lots of possibilities. I've got plenty of amps with short springing reverbs that I use, you know, normally. So it's great to have something different. So I'll leave it like this. It's not a blues amp in the sense that you're going to sort of get that big overdrive bluesy tone, or even the big edge of breakup sounds that you might be used to from an amp. It's something that's going to require a bit more thought and sort of structuring your sound, which I think can open you up to lots of possibilities. So I think it's actually a good way to finish this video is to realize in the first video I said this amp is an adventure for me. It's not what I normally do. It's not like just trying to get the best bluesy tone that I can. This is opening me up to whole new ways of, you know, what am I going to play? What am I going to play with this? And that's where we'll start to go in the next episode. So I hope you've enjoyed this little one, and it's given you a bit more of an insight into this amp. It did me, and I'm looking forward to showing you what it does next. Anyway, we'll finish with a bit more of that Les Paul, and hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. It really helps me a lot to spend more time on the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.